Hello everyone, the day has finally come. This is our amazing Lux Flow Ionic Detoxification Foot Bath, and this is the machine that we use. This has 6 stainless steel rods with a negative and positive charge, and we are going to slip our feet into the waters. Now we've got a clean bucket with nothing but tap water and a teaspoon of sea salt. Now I'm going to plug the machine in, so I'm going to give me 1 second. It might get a little blurry here. As you see, the cords are going towards where I would normally be sitting and watching the foot baths. So it goes away from the body, away from the person sitting in the chair having the foot bath. So now it's been plugged in. And now we'll start to see the bubbles in just a few seconds start to fire off on each rod. You can start seeing the vibration of the water. And that is the negative current of the Lux Flow Ionic Detoxification Foot Bath that you see. And you can see here, this is my kidneys. This alternates. That is my bladder. You can start to see the water starting to change color. This is my lungs are just now starting to fire off. And this is my head. Now how I'm reading this is, again, from the cords: head, chest, stomach, liver, gallbladder, colon, and kidneys, and below a belly button. Now in this first phase, we are in the yellow phase, and there are 13 imbalances that I'm looking for while I am in the foot bath. As you can see, the rod near the rods, we're starting to get color change. And so many people are like, well, what do the colors mean? Well, as you can see, I'm actually getting quite a bit of expression in the lungs. And so you can actually see smoke coming off my lungs, meaning that I have a lot of inflammation right now in my lungs. I think I have a chest infection, and we will find out. This blue-green, this is actually telling you that my body is not digesting. I have a fat impairment, meaning I'm not digesting my fats properly. They're getting stuck in my stomach and my colon and not in my gallbladder and going to my brain where it needs to go. So I just recently started taking an herb to help change that, because I'm not able to digest fats on my own. So I continue just to kind of go back and forth between the rods as I read. This usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes if you're hydrated. If you are cellularly dehydrated, this can take up to 30 to 45 minutes. And you won't see a lot of change if you're dehydrated. So you guys see the smoke happening? Yeah, you can see it right there. This is actually systemic inflammation. It's coming off all of the rods. And now if I pull this up and look to the right, am I changing colors outside of my foot on the right hand side? Should be at this point. I'm just ever so slightly starting to change. So I'm very cellularly dehydrated. And then on this side, the left side, this is going to tell me if I have a hormonal imbalance. And I'm just now starting to change. So hormones are trying to balance, but they're definitely not balanced yet. And then we've got this green debris kind of floating amongst. This is lymphatic. The stuff that's floating on top is lymphatic. And at this point, it also, if we see a lot of stringy friends, see, it's catching that light. Ooh. So here, this will help. Do you see this yellow stuff starting to gather around this rod? That's an indication of bacteria. And because it's in my second rod, that is coming from my lungs. So there's that yellow bacteria starting from the lungs, indicating that I have a infection in my lungs. And wow, my fat impairment is intense. So I'm just gonna sit here and watch the waters as they change colors. Let me see if I can get, there we go, glare out of the foot bath. And so just to kind of educate you why we're continuing to let the waters kind of flow into the body and get attached to the positively charged free radicals, and then pulling them down with the negative charged oxygen and hydrogen. What the water does, like I said, it's just tap water and sea salt, just regular sea salt, organic sea salt. And I put a teaspoon in the water. The water and the salt, I'm sorry, the machine and the salt break up the water into 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, H2O. So now that we have single cells that are small enough to penetrate up the bottoms of our feet, the thousands of glands on the bottom of our feet, and our hands. We can also use our hands. If you are treating anybody who's a amputee and only has 1 foot, then we can use the hands so we can get that positive negative charge between the two. And so breaking up hydrogen and oxygen, becoming one single cells, like I said, are now allowing them to grab onto the free radicals in the body. Now, free radicals are toxins from the air, from the water, from our food. If you're wondering where we get our toxins, they can also come from things that we're cooking in. Some people are using non-stick pans and the metal is coming off, and as well as many other chemicals that leach into the food. And so when I talk to people about their health consultation at their health, I ask them what they're cooking in. I ask them what they're carrying their beverages in, because so many of the bottles now are leaking metal. And so yeah, we see a lot of yellow. And so it's gathering around. And these are my kidneys. Right now in this yellow phase, this last rod is talking about my kidneys. I'm gonna tell you right, my kidneys are not happy. Looks like I have a virus in my kidneys. It looks like I've got maybe even some gallstones in the gallbladder. That's what that's telling me. Sometimes we can see little green bugs. Those are, oh yeah, look at that. I think I've got some parasites on board again, which is, we all have parasites. It's just a matter of managing them so they don't get out of control. Someone with a compromised digestion like myself get parasites very easily, especially if I'm eating any kind of meat. But honestly, it also comes because I don't digest meat very well. So it sits in my colon and rots. And just like you would leave it on a countertop, bugs would start to grow. So we just manage parasites, really. And one thing that there's all kinds of tinctures, clove, black walnut, to get rid of parasites. And some people use, ivermectin, depending on your system. I don't necessarily think that's safe for everybody. That's why I encourage people to find health guides like myself, so that you're not just guessing about your health. And that way you can help dial it in, rather than just like myself, I've been kind of running around figuring this out with no help. And so now I'm spending as much time as I can helping to educate people. This is really what my passion is to educate those who are willing and able to listen and hear me, and how we can use herbs instead of going to the doctors to change our health. And more importantly, we can really use tea if we don't allow ourselves to get to an acute situation. Tea can actually manage so many symptoms that are we're bogging our doctors down with, you know. That was one of the things I remember talking to my doctor, and I said, so what do you think about, you know, the foot bath and us, you know, making these claims and helping people with herbs? And she said, you know, that should always be the first course of action. And of course, if it's an acute situation, you should go to the doctors and to the hospital immediately. But if this is something that symptoms are just bothering, like I can't sleep at night, I can't poop, I've got sore muscles, I've got insomnia, I'm constipated, I've got headaches, I'm nervous wreck, you know, all of these things, wellness coaches like myself, guides, are able to help you eliminate the possibility of parasites, fungus and mold, yeast, heavy metals, overgrowth of bacteria, overgrowth of yeast. So cellular hydration. Honestly, I can tell you, once I hydrate most of my clients, they feel amazing. And then we move on to healing your gut. And so you can see we're just about through with this yellow phase, and we're now going to go into what we call the orange or red phase. And the more redness in an area, the more inflammation. So we read the foot bath and can tell typically where most of the inflammation is in the body. And I have to say right now, it's difficult for me to find this on a camera because the lighting is so bad. I apologize. But I would say most of I have systemic inflammation, right? But most of it's in my kidneys right now, which is understandable after what we just saw coming out of them. Some inflammation in the colon. So all of this back area here can be an indication of usually fecal matter if you're not chewing your food properly in the back area here that connects to the bucket. And then we can also see